Perfect. All right, well, welcome beady friends. Welcome everybody to the newest installment in the Beadalon for Michael's class series. Today is Jewelry Making 109. Oh my goodness, is this the 9th class that we have taught already? I think it might even be the 10th or the 11th because we did a couple of wire working classes as well. So, being that it is Jewelry Making 109, it would indicate that there were a bunch of classes that have come before us. And if you are joining me again in the series, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here again. But if you're new because you saw the description and you were like, mask necklace, yes, I want to be a part of that, then you can feel free after we're done class today to go back and check out all the other classes that we've done for Michael's. There are, oh my gosh, so many different tips and techniques and ways to use the tools. And I'm hoping fun projects. It seems like people have really enjoyed the classes, which warms my heart. That's all I want to do, is to be able to inspire other people to start making jewelry and to start being creative. And this mask necklace project is a wonderful way to jump in and get started with some basic beading, or just to come on in and see how I do it. And as always, I like to give lots of pepper my presentation with lots of different tips and tricks and different things that you might want to incorporate in your jewelry making or your crafting journey. But the fun thing about this project is that we are basically learning basic beading skills. So I'm sure that there will be some questions about other ways to do this, and I'll touch on that as we're beading together and as we're learning together. But we're at the very basis, we're learning how to make a crimped necklace, and the way that we attach it to our mask is what makes it a mask necklace. So let me show you the project that we are going to be making today. So here I have my mask, and I have my necklace attached to it. And of course, when we take the other camera, you'll be able to see everything a little bit closer up. But I love how this looks. It's very reminiscent of eyeglass holders. So if you have eyeglasses as well, this is a project that actually lends itself to being eyeglass holders as well also. But I love the idea of using a mask necklace, especially personally when I'm in the Beadalon office, because when we're in our cubbies or in our individual offices, we take our masks off to be a little bit more comfortable, to be able to breathe. But when our coworkers and our friends come over to chit chat or to have a meeting, of course, we need to have our masks on. And I really like the idea of not putting my mask down or putting it in a pocket. It's just on and off, super easy, especially if you are using elastic ties for the sides of your necklace. So Raina, I think it's time to go ahead and take that overhead camera, and it looks like we've got a great group here, so I'm very, very excited. I'm also really excited that so many people are interested in making this project. It means a lot of people are wearing their masks and being safe, which warms my heart for sure. So are we set? Are you ready to go ahead and flip me over? Oh, you know what I have to do?
I was gonna say, it looks like your camera switched.
I gotta
there you go.
Flip like that. Now everybody can see what I have on my screen. We're all in this together. Okay, so what we are going to be making today is a mask necklace that we can attach to the elastic on our masks. So the materials that you are going to need are, first and foremost, bead stringing wire. So today I am using 19 strand bright wire in a 0.018 diameter. It is a very good kind of medium diameter. It's not too thin, it's not too thick. 19 strand is a very good medium weight wire. So it's not 7 strand, which is our most economical craft wire. And it's not 49 strand, which is our kind of fanciest jewelry making wire. It's nice right in the middle in terms of quality and in terms of price point. So we'll definitely need that. We will also need size 2 crimp tubes. Now this, this little vial I took out of our variety pack of crimp tubes that is sold in Michael's. There are 4 different colors of these crimp tubes, and the silver ones are the ones that I'm using today. We will also need the variety pack of findings that you can find in Michael's stores. And from here, we are going to need 2 of either the lobster claw clasps or the spring rings. I've been going back and forth, but there are plenty of each in this little container. That's the word I'm looking for, container here, to make lots and lots of necklaces, mask necklaces, I should say. So let's see, I think that those are all of the pieces, parts, and findings that we're gonna need. We'll also need a ruler or some sort of a measuring device and some tools. So the tools that we'll need are a standard crimping plier, and then we'll probably at some point need a pliers, whether it's a bent chain nose pliers or a regular chain nose pliers. It just kind of depends. I always like to have one on hand. And then last but not least, we will need some sort of a nipper. This is the nipper that I like to use, but we also have a nipper that is in Michael's that I'm not seeing right. Oh, here it is. I knew. See, I should trust myself to have all of my supplies at the ready. This is the sparkle handled series that that Beadalon has at Michael's. My favorite tools. I love the way that they feel in my hands. Okay, so now we've got all of the mechanics out of the way. Let's talk about the fun stuff, right? Let's talk about the beads. So for the design that we're going to make together today, I used I'm gonna just take it out and show you so you can see exactly what I used today. They are the glass black faceted beads from Michael's, and that's the part number right there. And I love it because it comes in with 4 different colors of these super shiny rondelles. This is a slightly different color. This is the faceted sapphire. And I love that you can go and for the green labeled beads, you get 4 different sizes, which really, I don't know, there's so many projects that you can make with it. So for this design that we did, I used the smallest and the second smallest. So I think it's let me just make sure that I have it absolutely correct. I believe it is the 4mm and the 6mm. And then this is 8 and 10. So I'm actually gonna pull these out. I'm gonna cut them out is actually what I'm going to do. I'm not gonna pull them out because these are the 2 strands that we are going to be using today. And then last but not least, my absolute favorite right now, I do play favorites. These are the 8-0 Czech seed beads from John Bead in the apricot mix. Where does it say apricot? Someplace it says apricot on here. Here we go. Apricot mix. I don't know if it's because fall is coming or these are just my favorite colors altogether, but I have been using this mix actually so much so that the first tube that I got is practically all gone. So I had to go and get another one. But for this particular design, I pulled out the silver beads from this mix. But what I love about it is if you're not feeling silver, you're feeling maybe this cool coppery color, or you're feeling a little brown color. All of these beads go perfectly with the blue. So I don't think I've forgotten any of our materials. So I'm going to move everything away from my workspace. I'm going to bring the camera down just a little bit, get this nice and centered. And I think we're ready to get started. So first things first, I always like to work from the spool. Sometimes that trips people up, but when I'm doing a design like this, where I'm doing a long length, I find it better to work from the spool rather than cut a length of wire for a couple of reasons. First of all, the spool acts as a natural a natural holder. So my beads aren't going to fall off the other side. All they're going to do is rest against the spool. And also, I might decide I want to make my necklace or my bracelet or whatever I'm making off of my spool longer or shorter. And either way, I haven't wasted any wire because I'm using the exact amount that's needed for the project. So just a couple of reasons why I work off of the spool. And I do that with artistic wire, with German style wire. There are a couple of occasions that you would need to cut the wire off, but for this technique and this project that we're doing today, definitely I would work from the spool. So I'm going to pull out about 24 inches of wire. So I'm going to go 12 here on my measuring device. Let's move that into frame. And then another, and then maybe just a little bit more for good luck. And then what I do is I replace this, this clip. So the clip actually serves a number of different purposes, but it holds that wire in place and acts as your stopper. So you'll see once we start stringing our beads on that it's not going anywhere. And that's always one of my biggest fears, is after I've made a beautiful necklace and strung everything up, if I go to move it or I go to size it, then all of my beads could potentially fall off. And it only has to happen one time for you not to know that, for you to know that you don't want that to happen again. So I'm just gonna open and spill out some of my beads here. And I always start with a small bead. So whether I am doing the same pattern that I'm going to be replicating here today, or if I'm doing a different pattern. So here's another one that I made with different beads from Michael's. And you wouldn't maybe think that those would be a good size for a mask necklace, but they are a great size for a mask necklace. They feel really good and they're really light, which I found is an important part of the equation here. But you can see how I ended with 3 seed beads. Whenever I'm making any jewelry at all, I always will start and end with the smallest bead that I can. It makes crimping easier. It makes everything a little bit more secure. And it looks nice for your design as well. You can also use all different sizes of beads, right? But I still, at the very end, finished off with smaller beads. Okay, so as I'm starting to string up, I am going to start with a small bead. You really only need one. Anything else becomes purely decorative. All right, so let's get nice and down in here. So the best thing about using the bead stringing wire is that it is super flexible. So the 19 strand we call that the medium flexibility, but you can see, actually, a little too close for you to be able to see, you can see how nice this wire is going to drape, especially when you have beads on it. So the 19 strand wire will drape nicer than 7 strand wire, and the 49 strand wire, of course, will drape the best. But once you have your beads on there, the wire, especially for a necklace like this, is going to work. So if you have 7 strand wire in your bead stash, I would encourage you to try it and see if you like it. It will be a little stiffer for sure, but it's not going to be stiff like memory wire or stiff like using German style wire. It will still have some drape, and it will still be pulled down by the weight of whatever is on it. So now we're doing the simplest of design. We call this big bead, little bead. So I am alternating a little bead and then a big bead and then a little bead and then a big bead. And we are going to do that until we have done 17 of the small beads. And I'm just realizing right now that I'm actually reversing my beads. That is what happens when you're talking, but I didn't get too far into it. So what I did here, and that's kind of, I paused for a second and reread my instructions because I got a little confused. I started actually with the biggest beads, and then I went to the small beads here because I thought that when this was hanging from my eyes or from my face, people would like to see these bigger beads better. So those are important design considerations for when you are figuring out what you want your necklace to look like. So, or your mask necklace to look like. So I'm actually going to just take these off really quickly, and I'm going to start again with those bigger beads because I think it does make for a nicer balance when you start with the bigger beads. So no harm, no foul, and a good lesson in being able to just take something off of your beading wire and go and start again. That is one of the biggest challenges that I have always been faced with in my beading, is being able to take something out and start it over again. I don't know if any of the beaders who are joining us today have that challenge as well, but it took me years, and I still have projects that I started years and years ago that need to be taken apart, but sometimes you just can't do it, right? But when you only have a couple strung on, it is no big thing. So I am just going for my great big pile of seed beads here. And you can see when I'm taking the seed beads, I am not picking them up like I am these larger beads. What I'm doing is I am just coming in and stabbing them with my wire. I don't have a needle on this wire. I'm just using the wire as the needle to string up those seed beads. I feel like a lot of times people get very intimidated by seed beads because they're so small, but these size 8 seed beads are my perfect sweet spot of seed bead. They are not too big, not too small, and very easy, in my opinion, to pick up with the wire. And you can see I'm even using that very same technique with the larger beads as well. So once you kind of get into the rhythm of everything, the stringing up of the beads part can actually go either meditatively or quickly, or really just passing the time when you're watching something good on TV, or maybe you're having a phone call, maybe a Zoom meeting that you have turned your forward-facing camera down. No judgment. We all do what we have to do to be able to get through the day, right? And it looks, so remember, as you are watching today, or if you are watching in the replay, that in about 24 to 48 hours, Michaels will post on their YouTube site, where they have all of the Creative Classroom classes posted, this video. So I'm just going to back that up just a little bit because it looks like I keep kind of knocking into the camera, and nobody needs a shaky camera, right? So if there's something that I said too quickly and you missed it for whatever reason, you will always be able to go back and rewatch not only this video, but all of the other videos that I've done for Beadalon, for Michaels, and also so many other amazing videos that other makers have made for Michaels as well. All right, so I decided when I was doing my first pass on this that I wanted the larger beads to be 17. So let's just quickly count those out and see how I'm doing. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. Oh, I went a little too much. We did 20. I'm usually a little bit better than that. So we just take the others off. And now is when I'm going to switch to my smaller ones. So I'm just going to continue that very same pattern of the smaller ones. And here I'm actually going to use all of them. So a couple of things to consider while I am stringing these all up. When you have the mask necklace, these beads are the beads that are going to be on your neck. So something that I always think about is, what do I want rubbing against the back of my neck? Do I want it to be a crystal with a sharp edge? Probably not. Do I want it to be a nice, smooth, round bead? That sounds a little bit better, right? So when you're making jewelry as well, you want to think about, you know, some things that you might otherwise not be thinking about, like what's going to be on the back of your neck. We are, you know, wearing masks is not the most comfortable of all of our fashion accessories these days. So you don't want to add extra uncomfortableness. And what we're trying to do with a mask necklace is make it more comfortable to be able to wear. Another idea is to do a focal bead right at the very end. So if you have, I was noticing in Michael's the other day, there were really cute holiday themed beads. That would be a really nice accent to include at the top of one or both of your sides. I caution making the mask necklace too heavy, because what I have found is when it pulls down on the elastic on my ears, it does not feel good. And I'm going to do this necklace in real time. As much as watching me string up big bead, little bead might not be the most fun of all things, I want everyone to know that you can really, I mean, within an hour with a lot of chit chat, make a mask necklace. And once you kind of get the swing of things and maybe even get into production, you can make them for gifts. You can make them in holiday themed mask necklaces for the holidays. And there's so many different ideas, different bead combinations, different everything that you can use. In addition, once we learn how to do this, kind of the basics of beading, and if this is something that really is kind of getting your creative juices flowing, I definitely encourage you to go back and watch again the original Jewelry Making 101 that I did for Michael's a few weeks back, because I went over in a lot of detail everything that you need to know to get started making jewelry. Oops. And you want to make sure as you're going along that you don't skip in your pattern. But if you do, no big deal. We just take it off and come back in and keep going. So in that original Jewelry Making 101, I go over wire, crimping, clasps, really soup to nuts, everything that you need to know to get started making jewelry. And I've gone back and watched a couple of times just to make sure, like, did I forget anything? Is there anything I need to make sure that, do we need to do another take on this? But it's pretty comprehensive on everything that you need to know for the basics. All right, so looks like I have taken there's one, almost all of my silver beads. So I'm going to take one, and I see one more left over there also. I'm still on my small beads, and one more silver. And this is a great way also, when you have a mix, to sort it. if you like one color more than the other, all of a sudden you have a sorted mix. And I have a couple more silvers in here before I start pulling out some more. So who is back to school now? Hopefully everybody had a nice let's see, what is the right word? Non-terrible start to the school year, whether you have a kindergartner or a senior or someone in college. I do hope that the beginning of your school year was seamless and continues to be, whether you are learning virtually or on bricks and mortar or a combination of both. I feel like this is really where that we're all in this together theme starts coming through even more. So I'm almost done with my small beads here. And just as a reminder, if you didn't get a chance to get the materials to bead along with me today, you can always go back. I think that the easiest way to find all of the Michaels classroom videos is to actually go to michaels.com, and my Michaels friends might have a better suggestion for me that they can put into the comments. But I think that if you go into michaels.com and search under the community classroom where you can see all of the upcoming classes, they also have the link to the archive of classes. And so you can either do a keyword search or just kind of scroll and click around. That's what I like to do. And it's amazing how many free classes that our friends at Michaels are offering. It's fantastic, because I'm a crafter and I like learning new skills, and I have dabbled in a lot of crafts, but there's always more out there to learn. Okay, so now here I am. I have done my large beads, my 17 large beads. I have done all of the small beads. I believe these are 3 millimeter, might be 4 millimeter. But the smallest of the beads. And now I'm going to do 17 more of these second smallest beads. Okay. But yeah, especially for kids who are in classrooms right now that need to wear masks, this is a great way, not necessarily with these nice crystals, but with maybe just seed beads, maybe with some plastic beads. Really, the sky is the limit for designing these things. I've seen really, really cute ones where people have beaded up the kids' names into them, which I think is just fantastic. You can use, small plastic letter beads and put the child's name into the mask necklace. And that way, nobody's dropping them on the floor or putting them on, on a messy, dirty surface. There's a better chance of keeping the masks clean if you have them around your neck. Okay, so let's see. How many small beads am I using? That is a very good question. So we've got 17 of the large beads times 2. So 17 times 2 is what, 54? No, 34. I'm not back at school. 34. And then probably the same plus 34 of the larger beads. I did not count those. So, I mean, it's a negligible, less than 100 of the little teeny tiny beads. Nobody said that there would be math involved. I feel like in school, if the questions had been like, if you're making a 12 or a 24-inch necklace and how many 6 millimeter beads would you need? That's the kind of math that I could get behind, right? All right, so I am coming down the home stretch here. And for those of you who are beading along with me, I truly appreciate that. That's one of my favorite things, is hanging out and doing crafts with people who also like to do crafts. And we are going to get to about 24 inches on this. For a child, I might suggest, well, it kind of depends on how big is the child, right? Is it a little small child? You might want to just take a tape measure and measure so that when the mask falls, when they take it off, that it's at, you know, they're kind of their chest level or someplace that would be an appropriate level. And that's easy enough to do. I mean, I would suggest maybe, I don't know, start at 16 or 18 inches and see how that fits. That's another thing that's great about this pattern is that it is very easy to adapt to a specific size person. And if you were making it for someone who is a little bit larger, or who just wanted a closer necklace or a further away necklace, you could, you know, add or subtract a couple of inches on either side. But I found that 24 inches is kind of the sweet spot. Add or subtract, this is not an exact science kind of a thing. I know people hate it when I say that. Where did my crimp beads go? Oh, here they are. Okay, so now are we ready? Just like that. See, I've strung everything up already. Last thing I do actually before I crimp is I always just double check to make sure that it's even, right? So sometimes if I'm chatting away or not quite paying attention or looking at too many of the comments, I look and I see that I have not done my big beads evenly, but it looks like in this case today, I got him even, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief for that. So now what we are going to do is we are going to attach our clasps. Now, quick, let's see, a quick little couple comments before we start on this journey. The masks, the elastic that I use for my mask, and I have actually made these masks myself. So, and you can find out in the marketplace masks that have thinner elastic and masks that have thicker elastic. I like a thinner elastic. I find it more comfortable, but if you have masks that have thicker elastic, not to fret, all you would need to do is choose a clasp that has a larger opening. So let me show you what I mean. Today we're using this little lobster claw clasp. When he comes into focus, you'll see we are using this lobster claw clasp that comes in the variety pack. But you could use a much bigger lobster claw clasp, or you could kind of keep going bigger and bigger and bigger to find a lobster claw clasp that would fit over your elastic. And I would recommend, if one size doesn't fit, bring your mask that you're making or that you're doing this for, bring it on down to Michael's and look at the findings wall, because there are a ton of sizes of lobster claw clasps and spring rings and all different kinds of clasps. So I guarantee that whatever size clasp that you need to fit over your elastic, you will find at Michael's. All right, so I am just tapping out. I only need 2 crimp tubes, but usually more than that come out, and I'm going to put that aside. And we are ready to use our lobster claw. Or I'm sorry, we are ready to crimp our wire onto our lobster claw. So everybody take a big, deep breath. Whew. And I am not crimping this to a jump ring. I am crimping this right to my clasp, because what I find is when I crimp to a jump ring rather than a spring ring, or if I'm not using a wire guardian, that jump ring can slip out of my clasp, or I'm sorry, can slip. Let's try that one more time. Start at the top, Meredith. The wire can slip out of that jump ring too easily for my liking. So I'm going to crimp this directly to the clasp. Now this is where we have to come right down super, super close. So I want everyone to see what I'm doing, because this is the important part. This is the jewelry making here. This is when we figure out how to make it all happen. So I have my crimp tube on my end of the wire. I have my lobster clasp. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to thread my wire through the hole in my lobster clasp. And now I am going to take that end of the wire and I'm going to come around my lobster claw and back through that crimp tube. Okay. Now I'm going to keep about 1/4 of an inch of a loop. I'm not going to put my crimp tube up so tight that there's no loop here. I want my lobster claw or my whatever the clasp is that I'm using, I want it to be able to dangle around like that. You do not want to make this so tight that it doesn't move. That is a one-way ticket to breaking your wire. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, let's get my hands all fixed so that I can see and that you can see, and then we can all do this together. So a couple of very important tips here. As you are crimping, you want to make sure that these wires are next to each other like this. It's a little tough. That's a little of a finicky thing, but you want to make sure that they're not crossed like this, or I guess that's really only 2 things that they could be doing in there. You want them next to each other, because what's happening is with our crimp tool, we are creating 2 little channels for the wire to rest in. Okay, so crimping 101. Crimping is a 3-part process, and I'm going to be able to do it at least twice, and if not more times. So the crimping pliers have 2 jaws. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place with these tools. I'm trying to get as close as humanly possible, but then also be able to see what I'm doing. So I have like millimeters that I can actually move my hands. So you can see those 2 jaws. The front jaw is rounded, and then that back jaw has a little divot, a little notch that comes up. So the order is front, back, front. Okay, so what in the world is this lady talking about? Let me show you. So I'm going to come here, and with the front of my pliers, I'm going to just gently squeeze so that that crimp tube becomes an oval. That's the word I'm looking for. And this is where I like to double check and make sure that my wires are resting next to each other and not crossed. Okay. So now I'm going to come back here into the back notch. And let me just get that right up there. Perfect. I'm going to squeeze down in the back notch. And so what that does is it turns that oval into kind of a crescent shape, almost a half moon shape. There we go. Now we got a nice focus. So that's step 2. Now step 3, we are coming back into the front jaws and using that. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that you guys can actually see what's happening here. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. So now I'm placing that crimp vertically and pressing down so that the kind of the C part comes together. Okay. So oftentimes people will stop right there, but what I like to do is move my crimp tool around in a little bit of a circular motion, just very gently. I'm not doing any death grips here, to make sure that that crimp is nice and crimped. Okay. Whew, that is very stressful to demonstrate. It's so easy to do. I'm going to show it again on the other side, guys, not to worry. Okay. And I'm going to lift my camera up just a skosh and see if we can't get it even better. So now what we're going to do on this side is we're going to tuck this little tail into the beads, right? So we're just hiding that little tail. Let me show that one more time. We've got this little tail here, and we're just going to hide it into those beads. And he might come out a couple times. So just put him back in his place. And this is where keeping the spool of, or the wire on the spool and not cutting it off becomes helpful, because depending on, maybe I changed my mind and I wanted to do a totally different design, I haven't wasted any wire by cutting it off the spool, right? Okay, but now that's the big moment. We can go ahead and actually snip the spool from the wire. And I like to do, I don't know, about 2.5 inches. Always give yourself a little bit more to work with here. If you just do like a little teeny tiny bit, all you're going to do is be frustrated. The wire is not so expensive or so precious that giving yourself a little bit more wire to work with here, you'll thank me and you'll thank yourself for that in the end, because otherwise you could spend, 15 minutes trying to finagle it into where you want to go. Whereas if you had just given yourself a little bit of extra, you would have been okay. All right, so let's do this one more time. We're going to string on our crimp tube. And again, just like I did with the seed beads, all you need to do is come down here and just pick that crimp tube up with the wire. You don't need to worry about, picking it up and trying to get it on there, or really even seeing what you're doing. The crimp tube wants to jump onto the wire. It wants to do it. It knows what its role in life is. And so it's going to go on if you just give it the opportunity. And the same thing actually for our lobster clasp. All you need to do is just kind of pierce that wire in there and pick it up. Okay, so a couple of very important things here. One of the biggest mistakes, I'll say it, I don't like to tell people that they're doing mistakes very often, but one of the mistakes that I see people make when they're making jewelry is picking their necklace or their bracelet or their whatever up like this, hoping that you can kind of see that in a good motion, and tightening everything up as tight as you can and then crimping it. Because what ends up happening is you put way too much tension on here and on here. And that is one of the number one reasons why jewelry breaks, is because it is threaded too tight. And even though this is a little bit of a different kind of necklace, it is still a necklace. So you want to make sure that you build in what I call wiggle room. And so whenever I am making a necklace, I always coil it up before I crimp. I don't want there to be any spaces in here, but this will allow and build in the right amount of wiggle room into your project. Also, whenever you are making a bracelet, this becomes very, very important. You always want to close your bracelet before you do your crimp. You'll thank me later. Okay, so here I have my crimp tube and my clasp, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did on the other side. And maybe bringing the camera out a little bit will allow people to see this part a little bit better. So I'm coming around the clasp, back through the crimp tube, and on this side, I am also going to go back through a couple of beads. Now, sometimes the holes in your beads will be too small. These beads, and most beads actually from Michael's, I've found, have nice big holes. So you can get several beads through, or you can get that wire through several beads. Now, little tip. Remember how in the very beginning I said that it's always good to have a chain nose plier on hand? And this is where I'm going to be using the chain nose plier in this project. I'm going to grab onto that little tail right there in the end, and I'm going to pull to tighten all of that slack out. And just like on the other side, I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch, right? It's about 1/4 of an inch, I would say. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. I get my measurements right on that. And you want to make sure, again, that there aren't any spaces in here, but there's also enough wiggle room so that everything works, you know, so everything is going to work. And it's a balance. It's a balance between tight and loose when you are making jewelry. So again, we're going to do that same motion on this side. And I think it might even be easier to see on this side because I'm not kind of fiddling around with everything, and all the beads are here holding that crimp nice and tight. So I want that to be just a little bit tighter. So I'm going to pull that just a little bit tighter. I did use in this pattern all of the smallest beads. All right, so once again, it's front, back, front. So I'm going to come in the front and just squeeze it down gently to make that oval shape. And then I'm going to put it in the back jaw of the crimping pliers and squeeze down to get that kind of moon shape there. I love it when the camera is so focused. And then the last part is gravy, right? It's the best part because I'm going to come in here with my, that first jaw of the pliers again, squeeze down, and then just kind of go around and make sure that that crimp is nicely crimped. Now, friends, from me to you, it is always tempting to come back in here and smush this with the front of the pliers. Please do not do that. All that does is break the wire in the crimp. So when we get calls at Beadalon saying, you know, can you help me understand why my jewelry broke? That first reason that I explained is things were strung too tightly. The other reason is almost always faulty crimping. This takes a lot of practice, kind of like our wrapped loops, kind of like anything that we do in life, really, practice. But once you get your crimping down, that's really the difference between crafted jewelry and next level jewelry. And it is not hard. There are lots of videos out there. And like I said, you can rewatch me crimping over and over and over again as long as you want. Now, what I'm doing here is with those cutters, those sparkle handled cutters, I'm coming in and I'm just cutting as close as I can, making sure I'm just cutting the little end here, right? And not the long one. We've all done that too, right? And now I have my mask necklace, right? So easy. So I can come here and I made a special new Beadalon matte mask just for this very purpose, to kind of do our unveiling, because then what you can do is take your lobster claw and just clasp it right on to the elastic on the side of the mask. And I mentioned in the beginning, oh, you guys didn't even see that one. Let's try that one again, where you can actually see what I'm doing. And you can also see that when it is time for laundry, you can just go ahead and carefully pull that out, right? Because you don't want your mask necklace to go through the laundry. So now, whatever mask you have, whether it's a fancy Beadalon mask or a mask that you've made or a mask that you have purchased or been gifted, or gifting to somebody else, I think that having a mask necklace really makes it not only special, but also really helpful for people who don't want their masks on to fall on the ground or to be put down on a desk or on a restaurant table if you're eating outside at a restaurant. Before we come up to the forward-facing camera, I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I do see a lot of very kind comments coming by, and I always appreciate. I always appreciate that. I put a lot of time and thought into the classes, so that you appreciate them is wonderful for me. I just wanted to mention two more materials that you can find at Michael's. If you're like, oh my gosh, that crimping, Meredith, that was a little bit beyond my realm of abilities. You can use a simple knot to attach your strand of beads onto your clasp. So Supple Max and Wildfire are two materials that you can find in Michaels that are perfect for this technique. If you, like I said, if you're like, crimping really isn't for me, I've been challenged with it. And I have here just an example or two, I think just maybe one example. This one I made with Supple Max. I actually did this in the office yesterday. And you can't even really see what I did because it's on Supple Max, which is a clear monofilament. And I just have it knotted. You can see I didn't do the snipping off yet, because I wanted people to see kind of what I had done, but I just tied an overhand knot, right? So you can make a professional mask necklace, but you can also do it a little simpler, right? Or if maybe you have some kids at home, maybe some teenagers who also want to do some crafting, it's always a good way always a good way to use up some time and to teach some extra skills as well. So I think, Raina, I think we're ready, since I just bumped my camera out of the way, to come back up to the front camera, and I will model my new mask necklace for everybody. Let's see. So in case anybody was confused about how this works, it just goes over your head like a regular necklace. I don't think I can get that down any further. But so the 24 inches fits me just kind of right at my chest, which is where I like it to be. Also can catch any crumbs that might fall if I'm eating. And then it just comes right up. And for this, I like the elastic behind the ears style of mask, because it just kind of comes right up, comes right off. And then you look like, you have a nice sparkle here right by your ears. So I think that's it for our mask necklace making class today. Again, if I went a little too fast over any of the steps, please feel free to go back through the Michaels online classroom community and rewatch the video as many times as it takes. Thank you, everybody. I really, like I said, I love seeing the comments. It really just makes my day. Yep, and there's some people who are giving some really good comments about mask etiquette, making sure that you keep all of the germs on the outside of the mask rather than, of course, the inside of the mask where your face goes. But I do think that the benefit of this in most situations is better than having a mask have the tendency or the opportunity to fall or to touch a surface that's going to be even dirtier than just the air between you and it. So thank you again to Michaels for giving Beadalon and me the opportunity to teach everybody how to make a mask necklace. I would love to see everybody post with the hashtag make it with Michaels. Michaels, is that the right one? Please put, if someone from Michaels can put the right hashtag into the chat. And then also we all like doing a hashtag make it with Beadalon as well. And then we can follow you and see what you've been making and make it with Michaels. Okay, perfect. Is that what I said? I don't know. Sometimes by the end of the class, I get a little loopy, but thank you everyone so very much for participating today. And next week, I will be back at the same time, 2 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday, to teach another class on behalf of Beadalon for Michaels. So until then, have a wonderful week and happy beading.